If you're looking to look better, be healthier, be thinner, kind of that whole package, reach out to Ideal Health with Stephanie in the link below and check out their program. They're constantly having seminars that you can sit down, learn, see if it's a good fit for you, which it is. It's a phenomenal program, and you can get those results that you've been looking for. You just have to do it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the New Hampshire Business Show. My name is Chris Bashana, and today we're here with Ryan Neal from Ryan's Sugar Shack. How's it going?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get started. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the business, because this is, from what I've seen, it's going to be a pretty interesting story.
Yeah. So I started producing maple syrup when I was 13. Mm-hmm. I'm 17 years old now, and I'm the owner of Ryan's Sugar Shack in Chester, New Hampshire. And I produce pure maple products and have my own facility where I do tours during the maple season. And I have about 1,500 trees now that I'm on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's get, I guess the first question is, so why does a 13-year-old decide to start his own business and then something like maple syrup?
So I started it as just a hobby, mm-hmm. and then I kind of transitioned it into more of a business about 2 years ago. But at first It was just a hobby, and I did it with my friend actually the first year, and he doesn't do it anymore. But yeah. I just had 3 trees, I think, the first year, and somehow it turned into 1,500 and growing at this point.
That's really cool. I don't even know where to go with that. So your friend left because was it getting just too much work, or?
We were just doing it kind of as a hobby thing back then, and then the next year I think I did maybe 40 trees the next year, and then it was 180, and then 300 or something.
Okay. Yeah, so as the work got a little bigger, you didn't want to stay on?
Yeah, he didn't. It was just like a friend's thing for fun, and he wasn't in it for a business.
That's pretty cool. Idea, yeah, I know everyone has their own thing, So, why maple syrup?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing not many people know how to do, but it was just, we've got a lot of maple trees on our property. It's a traditional spring thing that's done in New Hampshire. It's a food product that I can share. I shared with my family just the first couple of years.
Yeah.
And then as it grew, more and more people wanted it, and that's why I kept growing. But it was kind of just, it's what I could do on my property, and so as a hobby, that's what I did at first.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. I love that. Now, I'm sorry. Before we get into the actual maple syrup part of it, you mentioned you've been expanding, getting more trees and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, is that just trees that are already on your property that you've marked off, or are you actually planting trees?
No, the trees that you tap are about 40 years old. Mm-hmm. So I have about 150 to 200 on my property, and then I'm leasing 180 acres in Chester that I have most of my trees on at this point that I transport sap back from. But
okay.
Yeah.
So let's go into that process, because we're talking a lot of things here that, when you get a little older in business, that's pretty normal, but for, a 17-year-old leasing, you said 180 acres?
Yeah, a land lease on that.
To, getting to the point, and then getting to someone that will actually even lease land to you.
Yeah.
There's a very interesting, dynamic going on here that you don't typically see.
Yeah, because I'm basically, it's an agricultural type thing. It's like farming, except it's kind of borderline, more difficult thing to do, because I'm trying to market this into stores and everything. It's not like I'm selling it out on the street or anything. Yeah. It's and there's a lot of regulation with it as well. Yeah. But basically how land leasing works is I find a property that I would like to, because not all land has maple trees on it in the state. A lot of it doesn't, especially this part of the state. So I pick out the properties that I want to try to pursue, and then I would go to the town and find the information of who owns that land, and then contact them with my information and what I could pay them per tap and all that for the actual contract itself. So that's kind of the process in land leasing, and that's really the only way for me to do it in this part of the state, because land is so expensive. I could not afford to purchase 200 acres of land in southeastern New Hampshire.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because property taxes alone would drain any profit you'd ever make.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh. That's pretty cool. So, I know I'm just asking a ton of questions. So you tap the trees. You're kind of going through this process. How do you get all of the, I guess, the sap out of there?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a lot of work in itself.
Yeah, not many people know the process there. So basically, I use a tubing system. So there's tubing set up all year round at these trees that I'm tapping. And then during the season, I put the taps in the actual tree, which I drill a hole and put the tap in the tree. And then the season runs about 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the year, which it really varies. There's no way to predict how well your season's going to be. This past year is pretty good, but basically you collect the sap that runs every day, you bring it back to your processing facility, which is in Chester for me on my property, and you're going to boil it because sap is like water, and you're trying to concentrate the sugar, which sap is roughly about 2%.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get it to about 67%. So a lot of concentrating there. That's where your 40 to 50 to 1 ratio comes in that you hear sometimes. And you process it, and then you got to finish it to the legal standard, and then you're going to filter it through a filter press, and then you're going to be hot bottling it or hot canning it into your packaging, and then your labeling happens after that. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you got to market it, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and the marketing and selling.
Yeah, that's a whole nother process.
So with the amount of trees you have, like the 1,500 trees, how much of the actual syrup can you make every year?
I can make, with what I have right now, about 350 gallons of syrup a year. I'm hoping for over 500 next year. Mm-hmm. So I've got a bit of work I need to do to get to that point. I'm going to add some more trees. I'm changing my system a little bit. But it's all about what kind of technology you're using. There's a lot of changing technology in the industry right now that allows me, myself, to be running 1,500 trees. Because back, even 30 years ago, that would have been impossible for one person to run 1,500 trees.
Yeah, because like you said, it just sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I like that. So I'm just going to show you guys. Here's a little Ryan Sugar Shack. So where are you selling these?
So I'm in, I retail it out of my facility during the maple season, and then I have an online store at ryansugarshack.com.
Yeah.
And then I'm also in a few local stores, I think maybe 15 small stores, and then I'm working on a contract with Hannaford right now.
Nice.
To go into there, because I still have quite a bit of product left over. But places like Prime Butcher in Hampstead is one I've been in for a while. That's probably the closest one to here that you'd be able to.
Nice.
Go look
that's pretty cool. So that's a Hannaford. I mean, that's a pretty big name to be filling orders for.
Yeah. I mean, they work a lot with local vendors, so they're a good one to start with for anyone selling small products like this. Because obviously, I've talked to Market Basket, and I'm not able to fulfill 70 stores or whatever at this point. I'm really trying to make the jump from supplying like farmers markets and small stores into more of a commercial, supplying grocery chains and all that. So that's the point where a lot of small businesses struggle. I'm sure you've heard that, and that's where I'm trying to go through. And I think Hannaford is very helpful to small businesses for that transition. Yeah,
because I'm just thinking of the amount of product you need to fill. I don't know how big the shelf on the store would be, but probably have to put out a lot of stuff to be able to get to that.
Yeah, you've got a lot of your product is tied up too in inventory and all that. So it's definitely the transition from being in small stores and farmers markets and stuff. So it's exciting. But
absolutely, it's pretty cool. So I'm trying to think, what else do we got there? Hold on. So I'm going to do a quick break for commercials. Everyone, hold on. If you're looking for a new and kind of cool type of marketing, you should check out our business card board. As you can see right over there, that baby does some amazing things for the entrepreneurs on it. It's only $20 a year, and it's a really cool way to show some support for the New Hampshire Business Show and the other entrepreneurs in New Hampshire. As I said earlier in the week, there is 3 things we need for a business to be successful, and that is the offer, the audience, and follow-up. Part of follow-up is actually being able to capture the information of your client and then how you deal with them on the back end. So that lead generation part that I mentioned as number 3 is how we deal with it here at Phone Sites. So check out the program. It is a phenomenal way to put an offer in front of prospects and get them to opt in and give you their information so you can follow up with them later on. If you're not doing that, your business will fail online. Since we're talking about Hannaford, and they have a ton of maple syrups and products and all that stuff, for something like this, how does the taste differ between, something that you're making and what you might get in a normal store?
Yeah, so basically mine is produced, it's about 50% red maples, 50% sugar maples, so it has a slightly different taste just by that. It's also done on a wood-fired evaporator. I'm doing this more commercial way of using maple tubing, which removes a lot of the contaminants that you'd get on a bucket system or something, but I'm also doing this myself over a wood-fired evaporator, so no reverse osmosis machines or whatever. So that's a machine that would take out some of the water in the process without boiling, and that changes the flavor a little bit. So that's another way my product is a different flavor from others. Then also, I'm 17. It's a small upcoming guy compared to the massive people up in Canada or Vermont that are producing product.
Yeah, people that probably have hundreds of thousands of acres of just maple trees out, everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm up against, basically. But it's also, a lot of people like to come and visit because I am in southeastern New Hampshire. It's very easy for a lot of people to come visit the facility, and I can walk everyone through the process and show everyone the equipment that I'm using to produce the product. There's nothing hidden. It's a pretty simple simple thing for me. I don't add anything to it. It's pure from the sap into the bottle, basically, once you process it, but you're not adding anything to it in the process. So.
It's pretty cool. So it's probably I'm assuming it tastes good if people are eating it in this quantity.
I think it's the best syrup ever, but I might be a little bit biased on that. But I've heard from a lot of people it does taste different than the store ones, and they like it a lot more, and I have a lot of repeat customers just because of that. Because they like the flavor of this over the other products that are in the stores. Which there's a lot of competition in the syrup market right now. There are a lot of producers out there, but you're just trying to get your name out there.
And it's one of those things that everyone and their, I guess not everyone and their father, but there's people take it up as a hobby. And if you can find a small store, they put out a little bit every year. So you kind of got the hobbyists, but then you've got I don't even know what the
more commercial operations. I'm kind of out of the hobbyist range. I'm now in small scale commercial. And that's the push for a lot of people. It's difficult. There's a lot of people that are right borderline. They're not sure if they want to make it into a business or not, and you really have to kind of gamble on it of investing in equipment. There's no easy transition into it. It's you're basically all or nothing, because the production equipment that you need is completely different from the two scales of producers.
And what I really like about it is because you're so young, a lot of the early risks that people take when they take on a business are kind of not negated, but they're mitigated in a way. Because, if you had failed, you're still living with your parents. You didn't have to really worry about rent or anything like that. So there's a lot of benefits to the way you went about doing it, which is pretty cool. I'm still messing around with real money, but
I'm not kicked out on the street if the business fails, basically.
You just have to deal with your parents telling you either I told you so, or you'll do better next time, Ryan. It's shut up.
But I did take a business loan. Obviously any business needs to do that, but that was about 2 years ago now. I'm almost fully paid off on that from
That's pretty good
from the start. So.
And that's just for equipment and stuff like
that? Yeah, equipment, and you can see in the picture there the facility that I built. That was last year that I built that.
That's pretty good.
In the summer.
Yeah. So what type of equipment goes into doing this? I know you had said you got the piping itself.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming you said a furnace to boil it down?
Yeah. So basically I have about 25 miles of maple tubing out in the woods that I've set up myself. I did all that, installed it all in the woods. And then you also have a maple evaporator, which that's basically your biggest thing in your sugar house is that's where most of your investment's going to go. And that's the actual unit that processes your sap. So you're feeding sap into that. You're feeding it with wood or oil. They can either be wood-fired or oil-fired. Mine's wood-fired. And then you have your finishing units, your filtering unit, and your canning unit after that.
Okay.
And then your small stuff for labeling and all that. But those are your main things. And then obviously all your tanks and everything out in the woods, above the building, all that.
Yeah. Now, with that much piping in the woods, you said 25 miles worth of pipe?
Yeah, roughly around there.
Are you constantly maintaining that, or is it usually pretty good? Because I think animals could probably jack with it, or...
It's a constant war against the animals, basically. Mainly the squirrels, because there is sugar water left over. There's no way to avoid it. So they learn, and they find out that there's sugar water in these tubes, and they want to get it. So it's a pretty annoying thing for me, because I'm always, especially just before the season, I spend 2 weeks walking lines, fixing leaks with the pumps running. Waste of electricity for me, because I have to run all my pumps to identify where the leaks are. So it's a pain, but there's really nothing you can do about it. It's just part of the business. Some of your time is going to be spent.
Yeah, that's too funny. Hopefully, in the future, they find a way to deal with some of those issues.
Yeah, there's new tubing out right now that is squirrel proof. Squirrels can't cheat through it, but that stuff's pretty expensive at the moment. So I won't be using that for, I don't know, I don't think anywhere 5 years at least it'll be before I use it. But.
Yeah. Well, maybe at some point, you'll get enough acreage that your new acres you could do with a nice piping and then slowly work it out through the rest of it.
Yeah, that'd be the goal.
Yeah, I can see that. So what are some of the biggest problems you see moving forward as far as scaling the business and all that?
I think the biggest thing for me is going to be getting the land to process, with the trees on it, and moving my processing facility, because I'm still in high school now, but once I'm out of high school, I'm going to be looking for land, likely in northern New Hampshire, that I can move the facility to, move my equipment to, and build a new processing facility on. I'm not so much worried about moving my product as I am the actual finding a sugar bush that's within my price range at the time, which is getting more and more difficult to find, especially in New Hampshire. I might end up having to move out of state, but we'll see when the time comes. That'll probably 4 years from now when I'm trying to move, at least. We'll see.
Nice. Okay, it's pretty cool. Yeah, so is there anything else you wanted to cover before we kind of wrap up?
Nope, I don't think so. I mean, if anyone here knows firewood, I go through about 30 cords of firewood in a season, which this time of year in June, July is when I'm collecting that for the next season. I burn all pine firewood. Okay. And that's the challenge, is collecting enough firewood for the next season, because about 30 days you go through that much wood. That's a lot for anyone that knows the amounts. But that's the biggest resource I'm going through in the season.
Is wood?
Is wood, yeah.
Oh, wow. Is that something that later on you could switch out, or is that kind of part of your flavor? I'm not sure if that affects the flavor. I'm sure
doesn't really affect the flavor. My machine that I'm using to process the maple sap is wood-fired. Okay. So I would have to get a new machine. Yeah. I can't convert it over to oil. I stayed away from oil because oil prices fluctuate. Right now it would be okay to be using oil, but
it's expensive.
Yeah, back even a few years ago when oil wasn't so cheap, I would have been in some trouble with that. So wood is, the prices stay pretty the same historically. The prices don't change a whole lot, so
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's always going to be there. So better
Cool.
for me in that way as a long-term investment.
Oh yeah, it's good planning.
Yeah,
it's good planning. So if anyone knows any firewood, give it to them.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah,
This has been a lot of fun. And like I said, this is really cool, and I like seeing young entrepreneurs moving into the market, because I think old people need to get out of the way sometimes.
Yeah, that's the challenge, is competing with the people that have been in the market for a long time.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. I like it. So anyway, yeah, thanks for joining me, and everyone else. Keep switching my camera. Everyone else, thank you for watching, and we're gonna have the last word from our sponsors, and I'll see y'all next time. If you're looking for a new way to advertise your business and you like kind of being on the front edge of some really cool things, think about becoming a sponsor for the New Hampshire Business Show. I deal every week with 7 to 8 or more of some of the newest and coolest entrepreneurs in New Hampshire. So if that's the type of market you want to be in front of, reach out, let me know, and we'll talk sponsorships. That's it for today, everyone, but it doesn't have to end there. Head over to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or iHeartRadio to get more from New Hampshire's top entrepreneurs.